What's up guys, my name's Brandon and today Apple released iOS 13.1 only a few days after the release of the brand new iPhones and only about a week after the final release of iOS 13. Now I say the final release of iOS 13, but in reality, this update, iOS 13.1, is what should have been the final version of iOS 13. It seems that Apple was rushed with the new iPhones releasing and were kind of just forced to push out a very buggy and not really unstable, but just an almost incomplete update with iOS 13. Now, yes, we did get a lot of new features and changes in iOS 13, but a lot of the bugs that were present in iOS 13 just simply weren't fixed in time for the final release last week. That's why I said it kind of felt rushed, because they didn't fix everything that they needed to fix before pushing out the iOS 13 update. And that's a big reason that iOS 13.1 was released so soon after the release of the new iPhones and also so soon after the release of iOS 13.0. So the build is pretty much the exact same as beta 4, but if you do have the beta profile installed, you will need to remove it, reboot your device, and then you will see the iOS 13.1 update populate inside of your settings, general software updates section. And you can see here the update came in at 3.24 gigabytes here on my iPhone 11. Of course, that size will vary depending on your device and also which firmware you are coming from. So anyways, let's dive into the new features, changes, bug fixes, performance, battery life, everything about iOS 13.1. Now, I've been using iOS 13.1 in beta form for a few weeks now on my iPhone XS Max, which was my daily driver before the 11 Pro Max here. I was also using it on the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 8, and I've also been using iOS 13.1 here on my iPhone 11 Pro Max ever since the day I got it on Friday. So I have a pretty good idea about the software and what it brings to the table. So before we get into the major bug fixes and the performance and the battery life and everything like that, let's talk about the changes and features found here in iOS 13.1. And the first change is that the volume output device now shows at the bottom of the volume HUD. So you can see here, I have my AirPods plugged in, and take a look at the volume HUD on the left-hand side. So let me wait for it to not be skinny. You can see here, you can see the AirPods icon down there at the bottom, and it's actually going to change depending on what your audio output device is. So for instance, if you have it hooked up to a HomePod and you're playing music on your HomePod, it'll show a little HomePod icon down there to match what you're actually playing the audio on. And also if you're in a phone call, it'll show a little phone icon there as well. So pretty cool little change here in iOS 13.1. You also notice that it takes one less click to shrink the volume HUD on iOS 13.1 compared to iOS 13. So we have iOS 13 on the left, 13.1 on the right. So I'm gonna press down twice. You can see that it shrinks on the right. It does not shrink on the left. It takes 3 clicks to 3 to shrink the volume HUD, whereas it only takes 1, 2 to shrink the volume HUD here on 13.1. Now also, if we go into our control center, you will notice that the icons are a little bit bigger here in iOS 13.1 compared to iOS 13. For instance, if we 3D touch or haptic press on the volume indicator here, you could see that the icons are much bigger, especially the volume icon there. You could tell the little glyph is bigger. Also the little icon up here at the top is bigger as well, and it shows that I am listening on AirPods as well. Another change here in iOS 13.1 is that the 3-finger gesture no longer opens up that menu unless there is a text entry field present. So for instance, if we go into our notes, you can see inside of here, we're able to do the 3-finger gesture to pull up the menu there, but it's only when we're in somewhere where we can actually type text or enter in text. It doesn't happen on the home screen or in games like PUBG anymore. So that will fix a lot of issues people had when playing PUBG and using the 3-finger gesture there in the game. We also get the Share ETA feature back inside of the Maps application with this update, and basically what this does is if you tap on it, you'll be able to quickly and easily share your ETA for your destination for any of the contacts you select. So this makes it very simple to share your ETA with somebody. All you have to do is just tap on Share ETA, then you tap on the contact, and it automatically sends them your estimated time of arrival, which is really convenient for a lot of different situations. Another feature that returns here in iOS 13.1 is the shortcuts automation tab. So the automation tab right here will let you set up automations using shortcuts. This was actually present in iOS 13, the beta form, but it never made it to the final release because it did get pushed back to 13.1. So now you're going to be able to set your automations for your shortcuts in iOS 13.1, which is kind of a big deal. And if you don't know much about shortcuts and automations, I will leave a link down in the description below so you can learn more about them. Also new here in iOS 13.1, the icons for AirDrop devices are now reflected by the actual image image of the device instead of pictures like they were in iOS 13. So now it's a lot easier to be able to depict which devices are available to airdrop to because it actually shows them. Like you can see the iMac there, iPhone there. That's just a small change that I've actually grown to really like here in 13.1. And just the minor one here, you can see the TV icon has changed in 13.1. And then there's just a lot of other minor UI changes. There's like some emoji enhancements and just a lot of other small things as well. If you're interested in every single small detail, I will leave a link to all the beta coverage I did on iOS 13.1 where I cover every single small change. So all those changes are nice and everything, but I think the thing you guys are going to like most about iOS 13.1 are the overall speed improvements and bug fixes. So first of all, yes, I could definitely feel an improvement in performance on iOS 13.1 compared to iOS 13.0, and I think a big reason for that is because there aren't nearly as many bugs as there were in iOS 13.0. Now there are bugs, I'm not going to say there are no bugs here in 13.1, but there are definitely a lot less than in iOS 13.0. A lot less crashing, a lot less bugs inside of certain applications like Instagram and Twitter. They definitely make a difference in your day-to-day usage. So you will definitely see a minor bump in performance with iOS 13.1. I would imagine it would be more noticeable on the new devices like the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max, but you should see it on all devices. Now, some of the main bug fixes I was talking about are the location privacy bugs. So this is a big one in social media and a lot of people wrote articles about this. So basically this is where iOS would not accept never as your selection when it would ask about location. Like for instance, if you opened up Facebook and it asked to use your location, if you put never, it actually wouldn't take that as an answer and it would instead change it back to ask next time. So that location privacy bug has been fixed here in iOS 13.1. There was also an exploit out there that would allow you to bypass the lock screen and be able to see all your contacts and things like that. That has also been fixed here in iOS 13.1. And there are numerous other bug fixes as well. I have noticed that CarPlay is less buggy on iOS 13.1. It's still a little bit buggy, but it's definitely less buggy than iOS 13.0. So yeah, not only are you getting the bug fixes, you're also getting the security enhancements as well, like with the lock screen bypass and this location privacy thing. You're also getting some added security with 13.1. Now, one thing I wanted to point out with iOS 13.1, one thing that I'm going to be monitoring with iOS 13.1 is the heat from the iPhone 11. So if you guys saw my battery test video with the iPhone 11, if you didn't, I will leave that linked up in the cards and also down in the description below. But basically in that video, I talked about how my iPhone 11 got extremely hot when using it for a while on iOS 13.0. And none of the other devices I tested got as hot as the iPhone 11. So I'm gonna be monitoring iOS 13.1 to see if that has fixed that issue with the extreme heat. I'm hoping it has because I'm not the only one that reported that. So hopefully it does get fixed here in iOS 13.1. I would definitely be making a follow-up video to let you know if it did. Now, when it comes to the performance here in iOS 13.1, like I said, it's excellent. It is a big reason to update to iOS 13.1 in general. It's more stable, less bugs, more security enhancements, and in my experience, it even gets slightly better battery life than iOS 13 as well. Now, like I said, I've been using iOS 13.1 here on my daily driver, the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So let me go ahead and show you the battery life I've been getting out of this guy here. So you can see here over the last 5 days, I have not been using it too much in terms of screen on and screen off time, but I'll tell you what, this thing has been lasting a long time. And I know it's a new device. I know it's the biggest battery in any iPhone, but iOS 13.1 gets great battery life, not just on this, also on my iPhone XS Max. My XS Max here also got great battery life on iOS 13.1 compared to iOS 13.0. I even mentioned this in my beta videos, how it got better on iOS 13.1. And I've also heard reports of battery drain on iOS 13.0. So if you've been facing any kind of battery drain issues, iOS 13.1 should fix that. Again, battery life has just been excellent for me on all devices, including my 6S, my SE, my iPhone 8 over here. 13.1 has been very solid in terms of both battery life and performance. Now, with all that being said, should you update to iOS 13.1? And that should be a pretty obvious answer if you watch this video all the way through. But yes, you should 100% update to iOS 13.1 if you are currently on iOS 13.0. iOS 13.1 is going to fix numerous bugs. It's going to make your device faster and more secure, and it's also going to give you some additional new features and changes as well. So there's really no downside at all to updating to iOS 13.1. So that's pretty much going to do it for my my review here on iOS 13.1. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. And if you guys are wondering when the next version is going to be out, iOS 13.2, we should probably be seeing the first beta of 13.2 as early as this week, really as early as tomorrow. So be on the lookout for iOS 13.2. Of course, I will be covering that here on the channel very in depth like I have with every other iOS 13 release. So definitely stay tuned for that. I did also make a video showing 8 confirmed features coming for iOS 13.2. So I will leave that link down in the description below if you want to get an early peek at 13.2. But anyways, guys, I'm going to stop rambling. Thanks again for watching the video, and I'll see you soon.